What's your secret to like have a good recovery after a long DJ gig?
Sauna.
Really?
Yeah, it's the best.
Even if you feel like a little bit hungover?
Oh, you need to give it a day at least. And then sauna and a good sleep, I'll set you right.
I'm going to say that one. Thank you for that one. Jamie, welcome back to the Netherlands.
Thanks.
Last time you played a Dutch show was at the Basket Street Festival, like 2 years ago, but also a solo show in the school way back 2017.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of that wonderful gig?
Yes, vague memories, but I remember it being very fun. I think I played for like 8 hours or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it something you'd still prefer to do?
I like doing it occasionally. It definitely takes quite a while to recover, but it's a good time.
First of all, of course, congratulations on your new record. It's been like 9 years since the last album, In Color. New one is called In Waves. It starts with Wanna, and when we hear this, like, you know, air horn, strings, a swelling beat, it all screams like, we are so back. Mm-hmm. Is that how you feel when opening the album?
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it took me so long to work out the right order for the album. I never thought of that track as the first track because I made it ages ago, and it was always something I played in the middle of my set to sort of reset the audience. But then I played it to Fortet, the album, and it was all in a different order. And he was like, this is what you need to do. And it's actually the perfect intro.
I read somewhere that, you know, it took you this many years, so to say, because you had too much fun making the album in the studio. Is that correct?
I mean, I learned to really enjoy the process of making music again, which I think I'd lost over the years just from endless touring and always thinking about the next thing, the next gig, the next record. When you're always flying about, like, that's just how you're programmed to feel. So when the pandemic happened and there was no option you just had to be calm and present and didn't know when anything was going to happen, I just started to make music for the love of it again. And that was sort of the start of being able to finish this record. And
did you still feel, you know, that kind of calm over you when the world was opening up again and the clubs and the dance floors were?
Well, yeah, it was a lovely thing to see, like, how people really needed to be together. It was like a social experiment almost. And when the world was opening up in London, you could go down, before the clubs were open, you could go down the canal near where I live, and there were all these little raves popping up. Just kids who brought their own sound systems and stuff. And it was just a beautiful thing to see. All I remember is...
So let's talk about the record. There are so many songs that you were teasing for a long time. For example, Daffodil, which is one of my favorites. You played it back in 2020 on an NTS mix. What happened to that song in the past years in between?
There's so many versions of that song. It was actually quite fast when I made it in the beginning, and Kelsey Lou was always a part of that. I wrote it in one of the lockdowns, and I was just asking her to send me voice notes via text of a night out that we'd had, and then formed those voice notes into that song. And then I sent that basic idea out to loads of people, and I had like 20 different verses from different artists, and I spent years trying to put it together in a way that made sense. And in the end I had to take a lot back out of it for it to be its final form. But I'd love for it to exist at some point with all the work that everybody did on it.
And how did that came, you know, when John and Panabir came together on that song as well? Did you just text them like, I can use those kind of elements, or?
Exactly, yeah. I basically asked, can you write something that is evocative of summer in London and parties? And there were lots of different takes on it, so many good bits. But those were the ones that, they're so different from each other that somehow it seems to work. It's like, it's a juxtaposition.
Would you say like this record, In Waves, is more an extroverted record if you compare it to In Color?
I think because I was playing so much after the pandemic, and I was trying all these tracks out in front of audiences and like working out the structure based on how people were reacting.
How does that work, if I may ask?
Well, we used to do that as a band with the XX, and you're concentrating so hard on not messing up when you're playing that you can't really tell if the audience like it or not. But as a DJ, you get a moment to just stand there and really take it in. And it's very, very helpful. And I hadn't done that in that way before. So I guess it ends up sounding a bit more like a party just because of the environment that it was made in.
I want to chat about the new song that you released today with Robyn. How did the song with her come about?
So I made the instrumental for it a while ago, and it came about quite quickly, and it has a lot of energy in the track. So then for ages I was trying to find the perfect vocal for it, and I tried like samples and different things, but nothing quite worked. And then I'd been working with Robyn over the years, and like she'd come and played a show with us in London a few years ago, and then just sort of hung out for a week. And she's so amazingly talented. I sent it to her, and like within a few days she sent it back with this incredible vocal, and it was perfect.
Could you explain what her music meant to you, maybe like also in growing up and hearing the bangers? Yeah,
well, I mean, it's just been around, you know. I never imagined that I'd be working with her, because she is a pop star.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a very different world to my world, but she's so down to earth and like just like in it for the music and loves the music, and is so talented. It's a real joy to work with her.
I obviously want to talk about Waited All Night with Rami and Oliver. On the song, it sounds, of course, like a real Jamie XX tune with familiar voices. It's also a bit like meeting your lifelong friends at a party at a place you've never been to.
I like that.
And did the three of you getting together in the studio like shake up some old feelings of nostalgia, or is it like you've always been around, also involved in each other's solo projects as well, I can imagine?
It's a bit of both. Like the idea of us all going off and doing our solo things was to broaden the places that the music that we brought back as a band, and I think it creates a bit more of a challenge going forward, but that is only going to make a better record. But it's been really nice just to hang out with them. Like we've been doing a week a month for a few months now, and most of the time it's just hanging out as friends. It's very nice.
Is that like a natural process? You just maybe like make music and decide whether it's going to be like some eventual the XX record, or for Jamie or for Rami's?
I mean, I'm like trying to be as open with it as possible, and anything goes at the moment. I think that's the best way to come out with something new. But we all have our takes on what we want it to be, and yeah, we'll see. It's early days.
Yeah, of course, Rami and Oliver are on the album. Robyn is on the album. Erykah Badu is on the deluxe version as well. How did you form this, massive lineup of artists? Were they always like around and involved, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd been working with like various people, some that I had more connections with than others over these last 10 years. But then only recently, through having done interviews and talking about it, which I haven't done because I've just been making it, I realized that everybody on the record is actually, I have like quite a meaningful connection with, and they're in some way have been a part of my life. And I really like that. It just feels more meaningful to me.
For example, with Honey Dijon on the Betty on the Floor, how did that track came together?
So I met her when we did this party in Bilbao at the Guggenheim. We put on like a 3-day festival in Bilbao as a band, and then the end of it was this big rave at the Guggenheim, which was great fun. She played, and she's just so good. At some point during one of the lockdowns, she got in contact and asked if we could make some music together. And at that point, I was still struggling to like finish any music that was like purely for me, and I was overthinking it. And then as soon as it was like collaborative or like for someone else, like the door opened, and that bit of music came out really quickly. And I'm very grateful to her for like opening that door.
Do you maybe have like a specific memory of a gig when you played this song, or when it felt like?
There's a lot of memories, but recently I had my own club in London for 10 days, and that song had just come out just before I did that, so I played it every night, and like by the end of the 10 days, it was like a football chant. Everybody was going insane. It was great.
So good. I would love to talk about that residency because you invited a lot of people, too many DJs, one of my favorites, Charlie XCX as well. When we're recording this interview, we're in the middle of like the Brag Girl summer. How does the album of Charlie comes to you?
Yeah, I really liked it actually. And that was the first time I met Charlie properly, when she came to the club. And she was very nervous about playing, but she absolutely killed it. And yeah, very, very sweet.
How is it for you to combine that in the DJ booth? Because to me, as you know, if you were on TikTok or Reels, it looks like you're there with your friends and like guiding them a bit, you know, giving them some help if they want to, but mostly having fun as well. Do you feel like the people who's connecting in the DJ booth at that point? Yeah,
I mean, the whole 10 days, it felt like it was a very community type thing, and by the end of it, a lot of people came several times and had bought like tickets for each night, and you could see like little groups of friends who'd come separately starting to become friends, and yeah, it was just a really lovely thing. It was more than I'd dreamed of.
Yeah. Is there some kind of future ambition to open up a space for longer than?
Well, I mean, originally, over the years, I've had these ideas about buying a space to make a club in London, and I'm so glad I didn't do that because it was exhausting for 10 days. But I'm going to try and travel around with this floor idea in different places, and then who knows, we'll see. But it's kind of even more special for it to just be a moment in time.
When she raises her hand, it's not her hand rising, all the hands rising.
I would like to discuss the feeling of falling together, so to say the closing song of the record. It sounds kind of nostalgic to me. It reminded me in some place like old records of Faithless that my father used to play at home, those kind of sounds. What does that song sound to you? It makes me emotional. I mean, the connection that I have with Una, who's speaking on the record as well. I've known her for quite a few years, and she's a choreographer for contemporary dance, and I ended up doing a piece with her, which is where the vocal originally came from, and she'd done this 20-minute long monologue, which I made music for, and then I had made the music separately and ended up bringing her voice onto it, and it really elevated the whole thing. And then when I started playing it out, I could really see the connection that it made with people, and because I obviously never speak on stage, it was like an extra level of connection for me too, because it kind of felt more like I was being able to communicate a bit better, and I loved that feeling. Does it also sound like some closing set moment when you see the lights slightly going on and like Yes, yeah, that's my thing at the end of a rave when the sun's rising. It's always a good moment. Yeah, it's a peaceful roundup, like the entire record, like, and then ending this way. So thank you so much for this beautiful album. Thank you. And I have to ask, will you be back in the Netherlands with this record, with Yes, for sure. The party? Yes, definitely. It's all in the works. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.